It's dark. We're looking for some guy that was making HME, homemade explosives.
They lied, told us it was an ISIS leader.
My job is not to pray for this man's salvation. My job is to kill this man. Shot him off a motorcycle at 600 meters. I would have been willing to fight anybody who wanted to talk trash about the United States of America. Now, as an older man, and I see the real reasons we were in some of these places. And then Afghanistan pull out, that was the nail in the coffin for me.
Me too, man. Let's move into your first operation where you got to kill. Let's move into your first kill.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I'm trying to think, building white space. I can't remember I think we just drove ATVs. Remember those side-by-sides we had? So I think we just drove those from the fob that we were building up where we were staying at. Sometimes we'd take helos certain places, but I think we just drove them the whole way. I know we drove them back. We go out, it's dark, it's like 2 a.m. Unilateral op, we're looking for these specific people, some guy that was making HME, the homemade explosives, in that area. And we set up a sniper hide, me and a guy, I won't use his name, he's at Red right now. He might be a warrant officer now, that's how old we are. He's a warrant now. So we set up on a hill and we're told, hey, let everybody leave the village unless you see anybody leaving with weapons, engage them. And if you see anybody coming into the village, with weapons, engage them. I mean, that was pretty much, and we're in the South Sniper Hide. Stumpf and his crew were in the North Sniper Hide, and then there was a couple other guys on the West. And that's where the mountains, that's kind of they set up. This was a real flat, salt flat area by this town, and I cannot remember the name of the town, but they're doing their clearance. And so we set up, they go through in their clearance, they start on nods, they finish at daytime, they bring in the key leader engagement, so they bring in the leaders of the town, they're talking through them, they found some weapons caches and stuff, and people leave the town, and this guy burns in. He had his AK slung, he had the saddlebags on his bike that you could see I thought it was HME bins or whatever. It wasn't, it was actually empty jugs. I guess he was going in to get HME, but he had all the mortar fuses and all that stuff to hook up the IEDs. That's what, so shot him off a motorcycle at 600 meters. And
your first kill was at 600 meters?
Yeah, 600 meters. That's about 650 yards, so maybe just inside 600 meters.
Damn.
He hit a turn. I shot at him a couple times, with that 300 Win Mag, and racking that bolt. And when he hit a turn, I found a spot where he was going to slow and kind of turn toward me. And I shot him through the gas tank of that motorcycle, and that hit his leg, and he gets out. He's like trying to figure out where it's coming from, pointing his AK, looking around. I had my dope dialed up. I dialed my dope down real quick, just flattened it out so I could hold in my reticle, Them old Night Force scopes with the mil dot, it didn't have like a Horus reticle or what we'd shoot now. But I just dropped it down, held in my scope, and center punched him when I did. Hit him in the belly, and he crawled behind this thing. And then we broke down the high sight and cleared over to him, and he was behind this like old broken down wall. You remember, how they had like half built buildings out there, old rundown. It was like something like that. And he kind of sits up around the corner with his AK from about me to you, and I threw up it was a SCAR actually I had at the time, a 7.62 SCAR Heavy. We're the first ones that we were testing them. I think the Rangers were testing them, and we were testing them. I deployed that thing and shot him from about me to you in the head with that, and ended him. And that was the first kill. So that was
point blank with a SCAR in the head.
Yeah, dude. I don't know if I've got pictures of all that stuff from deployment, because you remember you have to take pictures of guys, and then you have to bring them in. At one time, I had pictures of that stuff. I mean, it's not something we generally share.
We probably won't put that up.
No, yeah. Don't put it up. We can't get. It was like, but it was no joke. The 223, you shoot somebody in the head, it like canoes their dome. This thing just like Gallagher busting a watermelon. That 7.62. But yeah, that was my first kill, and then we got in a few little ticks.
Hold on. How did you feel about that? Strong Christian faith since childhood.
I was tickled pink. I mean, that's what we had signed up for. I would say now, looking back on it, and did it make any real difference in my life whether I would have done that or not? No. Does it make me any more of a man or any less of a man if I killed somebody or not? No. But this guy, That's the way I guess I rectified myself as a Christian man. If I'd have met this guy in a coffee shop, maybe I'd tell him about Christ and try to share Christ with him. But Scripture tells us, Paul says that God has put every man exactly where they are in the exact time, in the exact place, in the exact moment, so that they might reach out and find God. It's our own rebellious hearts that keep us from being able to see what God has for us to share. And then when you're killed or when you die of old age or whatever it is, you have received every bit of time that God was going to allot you to accept Him. That's what Scripture tells us. And at this point in time, my job is not to pray for this man's salvation. My job is to kill this man, because if I didn't, he's going to go place an IED that one of my buddies are going to run over in a little bit, or some Pashtun kid is going to run over while they're out there playing with, the soccer ball or whatever. So that's kind of how I justified it. It's, but I do struggle with now knowing what the government is, especially after the pullout in Afghanistan and working that. I know we might get into that in a little bit. I struggle wholeheartedly with why we were there politically, but at the time I didn't know it.
Why? What year was this?
This was 2010. This would be 2010.
Oh, this is later than I thought.
Or it might have been 2000. Well, maybe it was 2009. No, it was 2010. That's right. 2010. It's February of 2010 is when we went there. Yeah. Yeah.
What about being there bothers you?
Being there in the moment didn't bother me. Miss my wife. Didn't have kids at the time. Looking back, the reasons we were there, the military-industrial complex, the issues that we see. I mean, we see it going on in Ukraine right now. You've been to enough places in the world. I've been to enough places now, multiple deployments where we can see that I would have been willing to fight anybody who wanted to talk trash about the United States of America going and doing the patriotic thing as a young man. But now as an older man, and I see the real reasons we were in some of these places, and I see how we left it, that's what bothers me. It bothers me that I won't say I lived or believed a lie somewhat, but there is a little bit of that wondering and thought process there, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. When do you think it flipped? Because we had to go because obviously
for me,
9/11.
For me,
what point do you think that the U.S. interest in Afghanistan flipped?
Man, I don't know. I would have to say probably because I came in, when I checked in the teams, it was at the tail end of the Bush administration, so I didn't get to experience much of Bush. I would say it had to be within the Obama administration. For me is when I noticed it, because it was, I mean, we could get 9 layers of air. We get air coming in to take a Pashtun guy who was injured out, but one of our guys would be bleeding out and dying, and you couldn't get anybody land to save him. So they elevated, the Pashtun life over ours on one end, but on the other end, look at what they did in the pullout. They absolutely let those people get crushed, and so I can't understand it. I don't know if I can understand why they do what. When I say they, I'm talking about the system. The whoever's in charge, the administrations. I don't get it. We're not there to win. We're fighting a global war on terror. What is that? The global war on scariness? You can't fight something that's not an enemy. We're fighting the Russians. There's an enemy, or we're fighting the Taliban. There's an enemy, but a war on terror is just like drugs and law enforcement. The war on drugs. You can't fight a war on drugs. It's an inanimate object. It's obvious. We've been doing it since the 80s, and it's getting worse, right? The same thing with the war on terror. So that is where I really struggle. I'll say at least where it flipped for me, where I started thinking this was probably COVID, to see how the government acted during COVID, to see how many guys they kicked out and kicked to the curb, and what they pushed that we now know was a lie. And we don't have to get into all that, but that was probably where it really clicked for me. Man, I didn't always trust the government, but I really don't now, because they've been caught with their pants down. And then Afghanistan pullout, that was the nail in the coffin for me.
Me too, man. Me too. When I saw what was going on there, that just solidified all the beliefs that I had.
Yeah.
It was.
Or how about when they smoke a carload full of kids? They're trying a guy like Eddie Gallagher for killing a guy in combat, but they smoke a carload full of flipping kids, and some basically social workers because they said it's ISIS, and then they
Oh, you're
lie
talking
about
about the U.S. aid workers that
it.
they
Yeah,
killed.
and then they lie about it.
Yeah, they lied. It was a drone strike.
It was a drone strike. That's right.
Drone
Yeah, they shoot a
strike the
missile, yeah.
car that was supposedly, was it the, who did they think it
They
was?
thought it was the ISIS-K guys, is what I was told.
Yeah.
I just remember because we were getting pulling people out in the process, and I got a call from a buddy
Were you there?
when that happened. Yeah, we were in. I think I was in. I can't remember if I was here getting ready to leave or if I was in Istanbul ready to go into Tajikistan. But either way, I got a call from a buddy. He said, "Hey, you hear what happened?" And I said, "What?" He kind of explained. I said, "Yeah, I heard, the ISIS-K guys, they smoked." He goes, "Yeah, no, it was a carload full of kids and some." His exact words were social workers, but I mean, he was probably trying to say what you just said,
Yeah,
USA
it was
workers.
U.S. aid workers.
But I mean, and then they lie about it.
Yeah, they lied, told us it was an ISIS leader, and then it came out, no, actually, Biden, you just killed a couple of kids and some U.S. aid workers.
And it's
Good
like,
job.
oh.
But nobody fucking cares, right?
Nobody cares.
Let's prosecute Gallagher
Yeah, that
for
is
killing a fucking a real ISIS fighter that was actually ISIS and actually
who was shooting
a
at him not too
grown-ass
much before.
man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Not a bunch of fucking kids in a U.S. aid
car.
worker.
And that is really where it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.